Okay, so for people who didn't watch last week, at this point of the show, I crack open a beer because it's the end of the workday. It certainly is for me anyway. And once more, I'm drinking non-alcoholic beer or low alcoholic beer because I have to drive home. Next week I don't, so I have something different. And this one, it's called Lucky Saint, and it's kind of a bit of a it's a massive thing in the UK at the moment. All the pubs have this on draft. There's a few sort of different versions of it, and it's low alcohol. It's very tasty. I've managed to open it without spraying it everywhere. And we'll just put that on camera, and it's fizzed up massively. So that's a pleasure. So I would attempt to drink this while we talk through two articles that have sort of come to our attention this week. So the first one, now this is a continuation from the conversation that we had last week. Please, by the way, please join in, send us your comments. If you've got a favorite low alcohol beer, maybe drop that in the comments, let us know what it is. Be interested to see. But yeah, particularly on this, I think this is something that everyone, everyone should sort of be talking about. So last week, we looked at a headline. The fintech company Klarna, which is a European-based business. In January, they made some headlines because they said that they were avoiding hiring 700 customer service staff because they were putting conversational AI into their customer service, and that was going to sort of take over. Last week, we were discussing a headline that the CEO said that they are planning on getting rid of half of their workforce, another 1,000 people, by replacing them with AI. So the customer service experiment had worked really well. The company had saved money. It improved its customer service metrics. It was solving problems quicker, had less repeat problems, happier customers. And so they were kind of rolling this out to sales, to marketing, to all kinds of things. And to me, this was just enormous. I think this is the biggest story in TA and HR for the year. And I'm just amazed that people aren't talking about it, more than they actually are. So huge implications here. First of all, for the type of people that we recruit, there's there are less people because AI is replacing them. But also, if AI is replacing all of these kind of roles, then it's logical that CEOs, CFOs, reading this kind of article, all these sort of things, are going to think about TA, HR as part of this. What can we automate? What can we use AI for? So, this is huge. I think, as I said last week, this is, we see these trends, we see these kind of predictions, we see new technology coming on board. We talk about the future. This is the future happening in real time. And I think we've seen this a lot with AI this year in certain kind of spaces. It's already kind of going much quicker than we thought it was going to go. So that was kind of last week. Now, this week, new article. First of all, the way that they've avoided, what they did at the beginning of the year is they stopped hiring people. So that's how they've cut their workforce through attrition, basically. So they stopped hiring people. Huge implications for a talent acquisition there. And they've done this through attrition. And the two interesting things that really kind of pop up in this article. First of all, you start to wonder, how do you motivate your staff if they all know that you're planning on trying to find ways to replace them with AI? How do you motivate the humans that you have? And what's interesting is it talks about, the CEO says that they've promised that the people who work there will share in the financially share in the benefits of the efficiencies that they are creating. So they're actually incentivizing people to create more efficiencies and use AI in more places. That's quite interesting. And then the second part of this, on a recent earnings call, the same CEO actually sent an AI version of himself to do the earnings call. So kind of a video AI version of himself to do the earnings call, to prove that AI can replace any job and that he could be replaced by AI. I think this is kind of fascinating. I mean, really please send us some thoughts and comments on this, because I think it's such a it's such a big thing, basically. But also, I detect a little bit of kind of performative things going on from this company as well, because it's a company that's making a loss. It's not it's valued less than it was a few years ago, and this very much seems to be the PR angle that the CEO is using, to talk about the future and what they're doing and how they're innovating. So I think there's that aspect to it, but actually fundamentally, the numbers and what they're doing seem to kind of really add up. So as I said, this is the kind of the canary in the coal mine when it comes to the effect that AI is going to have on jobs, but also obviously specifically for what we're talking about on HR and talent acquisition. So what does everyone think? Jocelyn, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really hard thing for talent acquisition professionals and HR professionals to tackle. If I was a head of HR at this company and the CEO sent an AI version of himself on an earnings call to show that anybody can be replaced, that'd be a nightmare for me, because I now have employees thinking literally anybody can be replaced. So how do I have any job security here at all? And I'd think that they'd be stampeding to the door. I don't know what that message was really, who it was for, but it certainly wasn't for the employees. So this is really tough, and I talked about this last week. HR really needs to be responsible for upskilling employees and ensuring that there are career ladders that are transparent, and helping employees kind of cross train and upskill so that they can potentially move into other positions in the future that might complement AI, rather than AI just kind of replacing them. I do think the idea of compensating them with bonuses related to efficiency is interesting and makes sense. But I also think it's really important for a company like this to be extremely transparent with their AI strategy, so that the workforce feels not only comfortable with what's happening, but bought into the strategy itself.
Yeah, I think that upskilling thing is just a great point. It's just something that's kind of missing from this narrative. It's just like, well, we don't need customer service people anymore, and there's assumptions about, well, we don't need as many people in marketing anymore. We don't need to use marketing agencies anymore. We're taking this as assumption. We don't need as many TA people anymore or HR people anymore because we're not hiring people. All this kind of stuff. But it's like, what do we need? What do we need? What does the workforce look like? And I think that helps with the conversation in terms of like planning and training and understanding that. So that's kind of missing from this a little bit. Rhona, what's your take on this 1 week on from when we discussed it last time?
No, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. And I think from a talent attraction perspective, it's going to be challenging to, when they want to hire an actual human, to to have someone motivated enough to want to work at a company whose entire strategy is to figure out how to not have humans. That being said, I think you can always find people that are interested in whatever the strategy is of the company. You just have to be very open about it. The CEO is helping because he's clearly wanting to be in these headlines, so people are going to know. Some people might be interested in being the person always trying to show that they are the human that needs to be there, while they are the person who can find efficiencies. It's going to be challenging for the TA team, but not impossible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, it really is that. What is it that humans are going to do? And I think it's something that we need to talk about a lot more. What are the kind of adjacent skills to AI? All those kind of things, because things like this they always create headlines, don't they? It's machines are taking over, they're taking all the jobs, but it's kind of like, where's the bigger conversation about what does the future look like? What do we all do? Are we heading towards a world of leisure with no work? Are we heading towards some horrible dystopia? It's just I think it's those types of conversations I think would be very useful to be having everywhere in 2025. So thank you. So let's move on to the next one. And this second one is it's an article about pay transparency and reshaping talent acquisition and compliance. Now, up front, I'm going to say I'm not an expert on all of the laws around pay transparency. I know that it's something that the EU focuses on, and I know that there are various bits of legislation and guidance in individual US states about how this how this works and what people are expected to do. And I know you can fill in some of the gaps for me in a second. But I think this is this is really interesting. I think that one of the first things I think that we sort of spotted when this started to come into to the US was people putting ridiculous pay bans on jobs. So it's like this job has got a salary range of $20 to $200,000 and things like that, just to get through that legislation, which is not particularly helpful. I think ultimately there are a couple of things in this for me that are incredibly positive. First of all, we're giving job seekers what they want. Everyone wants to know the salary or the salary range for a job when they see it, because that, even when people say, well, money's not the most important thing about moving jobs, but understanding the range in which you're playing, I think is critical in terms of making those right decisions, not wasting people's time, and getting the right talent in the right jobs. Also, from a benchmarking perspective, it means that pay should technically be fairer for everyone within the company and everyone outside the company. And I think anything that takes away some of the horrendously weaselly negotiations about what we pay people, those kind of horse trading between hiring managers and recruiters and asking people about their previous salary and all those kind of things just to see if we can get them cheaper than we wanted to pay. I think anything that takes that out of the recruiting process is fundamentally a good thing. So it's sad in a way that this is being driven by legislation, but to me, while it may be problematic to some employers in some way, this is a tremendously positive thing in terms of the way that labor and talent and skills are gonna work in the future. Jocelyn, what do you think about this? Are there any downsides to this?
Well, I think all your points are just spot on, Matt. And for the most part, it's all really beneficial across the board. You're going to have less disparity in terms of compensation, especially between men and women or racially. So that's really important. And then there's also a level of transparency internally that allows employees the ability to really understand what they have to do to get to the next level, to get to the next pay grade, et cetera. So that's really helpful. There are a couple downsides more for the employer than anything else. And it's something that can easily be mitigated. One is, the fact that in some states you have to provide pay grades to existing employees. And when that happens, there might be somebody who has more tenure or somebody who's just a really high performer who happens to be making more than another person or others, and it can create resentment. And so it's really important for HR to be quite transparent about the reasons why somebody might be making more and what you can do, the individual, the employee, can do to get that pay increase as well. So that's a way of mitigating it. The other is the compliance aspect. Because there's no federal legislation around pay transparency, it's all on a state-by-state basis. So number one, it starts to get really confusing when you are posting jobs and you're trying to figure out what pay transparency requirements you have to meet in job postings. Some states will say you only have to do it if the role is intended to be in that state. Other states say if you have X number of employees, you must do it no matter what, no matter where the employees are. So wide range of requirements. That's really tough. And so it's easy to be malcompliant with these requirements. And so HR really needs to educate themselves on what those are.
And Rhona, pay transparency, is it, are you all for it?
Yeah, I'm definitely all for it. I was working at a company in the early days when the legislation started coming out. And it was really, for me as a recruiter, it was great to be able to ask a hiring manager, what does someone at the bottom of the range have? And what does someone at the top of the range have? Because now candidates are educated. They now know the entire range. Obviously, they're naturally going to want the top of the range, but as a recruiter, you're going to have to explain to them why they are in wherever part of the range they fit in. And just having that articulated and clear, because those are conversations that were happening from day one, was amazing. But for HR, for my HR counterparts, and for the hiring managers, it was a struggle just having people really define that. Because
Mm,
before it
mm,
was kind of like, well, if this person asked for more and it was within the range, then we're just giving it to them. But it's like now it's why.
And also the amount of, bias and discrimination and things that happen in within that, if it isn't defined, it's great to kind of, sort of move past that, isn't it?
Yeah. And just having that information was anytime bias was creeping in and the hiring manager was just like, I just want to pay this because I really want this person, I could confidently be like, wait, remember you said that they needed to have this to be there? I can
Mm.
fight that one for you, but you have to like, we have to be on the same page. It was great. It was mostly beneficial, everything that I saw.
So that is a big thumbs up from us. In that situation.